we'll wait till everybody in the bed. Nice turnout tonight, by the way. Oh, good. And you'll cancel your subscription too, so be careful.
Yes, I'll cancel your subscription to astronomy.
Yeah, before I start, I want to thank again Chris up there for recording these meetings, and of course they do go out on the internet. And it occurred to me, if you'll excuse me, I want to kind of talk to the audience. Anybody who is watching this on the internet, we welcome you to our meetings. And I was thinking, I don't know how far away people see these meetings, so I'm going to ask the audience if anybody is watching this from someplace else, from the continent, wherever, send an email to president@atmob.org, just letting me know where you're from, and I'll mention the next meeting. Maybe we have somebody from China watching this or whatever. The only caution, if you're a Russian observer, no hacking, okay? All right. Welcome to the 890, let's get this going here. Welcome to the 898th meeting of the Amateur Telescope Makers of Boston. ATMoB is an amateur astronomy club devoted to telescope making, observing, and studying the heavens. We were founded in 1934 with the cooperation of Dr. Harold Masursky at the Harvard College Observatory. In 1973, the Bond Astronomical Society. What's that?
I move we skip all of that.
How many agree? You don't have a lot of voters, so we have new people here. We'll read it. I'll just go fast. We were founded in 1934 with the cooperation of Dr. Harold Masursky at Harvard College Observatory. In 1973, the Bond Astronomical Society, another long-standing club, merged with ATMoB, making us one of the oldest and largest general interest astronomy clubs in the country. We meet formally the second Thursday of every month except August, to hear a speaker to discuss club activities and to socialize. We publish a monthly newsletter, Starfields, thanks to Al Takeda, which is available to all members. We hold approximately 30 star parties for schools and other institutions each year. We maintain a clubhouse and observatory with a workshop, library, and observing field in Westford, Mass. The clubhouse is open on most Saturday nights. Now Thursday nights, again, we're not doing that anymore. We have mirror making on Saturdays as well. And on Fridays, we do have occasional, in fact, every Friday now, we have a class going on for anybody interested. Membership is open to all those interested in pursuing astronomy as a hobby. We begin the business meeting with Secretary's report, Phil Levine.
I'm going to read a quick summary of these are the minutes from the ATMoB meeting April 13th. Glenn Chappell called the meeting to order at 8 p.m. Glenn Glenn introduced Ariana Roberts, president of the Acton-Boxborough Student Astronomy Club, and she gave the membership an overview of the National Solar Observatory Citizen Cape project. Citizen Cape will be positioning astronomers and students geographically along the line of the August 2017 total solar eclipse to collect data on the solar corona and solar wind. And ATMoB is providing training assistance during the months of May and June at the Westford Clubhouse, where Cape project personnel will practice using equipment in preparation for the solar eclipse. ATMoB members helping to train the Cape project personnel, Tom McDonough and Bruce Berger. And a quick note, after the eclipse, that solar equipment, Cape equipment, will be donated for use at ATMoB Clubhouse. And just to continue, Phil Levine read the Secretary's report, Eileen Myers read the Treasurer's report, Chris Elledge read the membership report. Glenn congratulated new member Ben Rubel for completing a 110 double-star marathon in one night. He used 2 telescopes. Glenn Chappell presented the observing report, Sioux French Fan Club pick of the month in the Las Vegas Astronomical Society Observer Challenge. ATMoB member Roger Iverser picks for April. Please see the newsletter for those details. Clubhouse report was given by Steve Clarity. Announcements. I did want to mention that one of our ATMoB members had a fire at his home observatory earlier this week. Gary Walker, it's, all his equipment, brand new, it may have been an astrophysics, Richard Creighton scope, 16-inch, totally burned up.
New Hampshire?
No, at his Hyannis house. Yeah, all the equipment gone. And I just wanted to mention that the ATMoB monthly pre-lecture dinner will no longer be located at the Jane Show restaurant due to the parking lot. It's going to be used for new construction. The pre-lecture dinner is now held at the House of Jane on Concord Ave, just about a couple blocks in that direction. Our presentation was given by ATMoB member James Singh on Project TANOPS, a citizen astronomer exoplanet project focusing on building automated robotic telescopes. And I think James is going to give an update later in the meeting on that, or perhaps at the next meeting. A point of order regarding election of club board members was brought up by Dick Coolish. We had a nominating committee selection, James Singh, Mike Hill, Eileen Myers. The election is in June?
The annual meeting in June, correct?
Okay. We had some visitors. Jim and Rhoda Morris gave a presentation regarding the building of telescope replicas to be exhibited at the world's largest planetarium in China. 3 telescope replicas will be constructed, Newtonian, Herschel, and Galilean. Jim and Rhoda would welcome ATMoB member expertise on construction of these replicas. See a web link in the newsletter if you wish to help them in that project. Old business, none for the April meeting. Just a quick note, the previous meeting in March, Bernie Volz indicated in an email, ATMoB announced email, Chris Elledge has uploaded public outreach material provided by March speaker Dr. Douglas Arian to the ATMoB website. You can check under Members, Documents, Resources, AMC Carthage. This is a project in conjunction with the Appalachian Mountain Club for astronomy public outreach. New business, Julie Kaufman mentioned a march to support the sciences held on Boston Common on Earth Day. Julie indicated the importance of showing public support for the funding of scientific research. One of the attendees at the meeting requested assistance from the club on how to use her telescope. I believe she received assistance at the end of the meeting on how to get that training. Glenn introduced the guest speaker for the evening, Kevin Collins, a member of the Amherst Area Amateur Telescope, Amherst Area Amateur Astronomers Association. Kevin detailed a project to utilize a mirror from an old 13.1-inch Coulter Odyssey Dobsonian reflector, and he converted it into a much more compact obsession-style truss tube design. And Ken contrasted the size and weight of the original design. Glenn Chappell brought his old Coulter to the meeting to contrast to his compact, lightweight design, which he assembled at the meeting. Refreshments were provided by Bruce Tinkler, and Glenn adjourned the meeting at 10:15. Thank you.
I was just mulling over that suggestion to cut short this opening spiel that I do every time, because I get out of breath sometimes reading it. And most of us already know what a great club this is, but I'm thinking again, there are a few newcomers that don't, and the folks out there that might be watching this on the internet don't either. So what I will do is maybe I'll write this a little shorter so I don't die from shortness of breath reading it, but I think it always bears a good thing for us to talk about the club and the history we've had here. So I will shorten that opening if that works okay. Thank you. Observing committee report. Bruce has got a thing he's going to be doing a little later on, so I'll take over this. Upcoming events from this meeting till the next. There are going to be a bunch of double shadow transits on the planet Jupiter. This series is starting right now. And again, I'm not familiar with shadow transits, so I did a little research as I was looking for the Royal Astronomical Society, their handbook. And apparently it'll start, a lot of them are mostly Io and Europa. And the first few are very close together. It's only a couple of minutes. In fact, there's one happening tonight. I don't think we're going to see it because of the clouds, but from 9:59 to 10:06, The shadows of both Io and Europa will be visible on Jupiter. So that's happening again tonight. I was thinking of bringing a telescope, but I didn't think the clouds are going to help us at all. So, but there are 2 more later on this month. You notice the next one is a little bit longer. It's more like about a half hour. Actually 53, yeah, almost 50 minutes. So they start to lengthen out a little bit. And the third one's going to involve Io and Ganymede. So those are kind of neat to see those 2 little black dots on the planet and watching them move across the planet. It's very quick too.
Mention the red spots, Brian.
That's coming up. I'm ready. June 3rd, we're going to have Venus at its greatest western or morning elongation on June 3rd. And those little red things there, the planet Uranus will be right about here, a couple of degrees away. You can pick that up with binoculars if its sky is still dark enough. And obviously Uranus is about 5th magnitude, so if you wait too late, you won't be able to see it. Venus will be a little low in the sky. Now Mercury also has a greatest elongation later this month, but it's pretty poor. You look at how low the horizon is here, and this is set for 45 minutes before sunrise, and already Mercury's not that well visible. By the way, can you all see from the back? Should I lower the lights? Yeah. Lower the light. All right, at least I can remember which one there is. There's nothing on the screen. Just tapped it. I did. I tapped it. It's doing nothing. We're being hacked. Do I have a technician who come out? I'm tapping and nothing's happened. It says, please touch.
It's all fake news.
Well, something's happened. They're out. Maybe we better not be broadcasting overseas. Shut off that tape. All right. Sorry about that. The Sioux French Fan Club. And again, if you're fans of the Sky and Telescope magazine, this is personally one of my favorite columns in the magazine. She's really picked up where Walter Scott Houston left off. But the one she picked out was NGC 4261. It's an elliptical galaxy in Virgo, and it's not far from the star 17 Virgo. I've got the chart right up here. These came right out of Sky and Telescope magazine. So that's our target. And just so you know, it's not something you need just a big telescope for. This is a sketch I made of that galaxy way back in 1981 with a little 3-inch reflecting telescope. So it is visible to small aperture telescopes. Not too impressive. Just a little fuzzy patch of light until you put the Hubble on it. It turns out the core of this galaxy is a giant black hole with a dust ring around it about 400 light years across. So again, sometimes when I'm looking at a little fuzzy patch of light, I think what's going on there. There's a giant black hole there, or the light left back when the dinosaurs were still around. I can't remember exactly how far away this galaxy is, but you're looking into the past. So then it becomes a very fascinating object. So that's our Sioux French object. And there are a bunch of galaxies in that same area. If I can go backwards here again. You see the chart. You got a bunch of galaxies. I think a lot of them are 11th and 12th magnitude. But again, 4261 is about 10th magnitude, visible with a small aperture telescope. The Observer's Challenge out of the LVAS, and I mentioned last month, the current one hasn't come out yet. We hope to see that fairly soon. Roger's still waiting for a couple of contributors. But this club really predominated the one for last month. And this month's target is going to be Messier 98, which is a galaxy in Coma Berenices. And I got a picture that Mario took through his scope. But all you have to do is go from the nebula, go across to the star 6, Coma Berenices, and you'll see this galaxy about a degree away, not even that far. So that's our target for the LVAS. So again, check it out, make some notes, send the stuff into Roger. Now, I wasn't going to be doing it this month. We had somebody else set, but they couldn't make it, so I put something together really quickly. And first one I put down is Jupiter red spot. Now, we don't usually mention solar system objects in our picks, but Mario mentioned in an email that the red spot is real.
It's cherry red. For 30 years, looking at Jupiter, it's faded out. Last 10 years, you wouldn't say it's red, you'd say it's a faded little hollow, and that's all you see. There was a clear night, and I got home from work, thought I'd open the dome for just an hour.
Work?
Yeah. I'm not retired like you.
This is technical, row 2.
And I was blown away. The red spot is cherry red. Looks like the eye of Mordor staring at you. If you haven't seen it, you got to look at it.
Yeah, I had to bring that up again. It's worth looking for it. All you need is a clear night, which may be a test, but we'll see. The second one is Mel 111. Anybody know what Mel 111 is? Well, what is it? You're raising your head. What have we got?
What's the Coma cluster?
It's the Coma cluster. It's Coma Berenices, the constellation, which is also a cluster. And I put this in because if you're in a dark area, you can see this with a naked eye. It's about 4.5 degrees across, but it also makes a nice binocular sight. I'd say with telescopes, you know, you got a field like this. It's not going to be very interesting, but it's a nice binocular sight. It's basically where the tail of Leo the lion is. And finally, since I'm a double-starred nut, I had to include Gamma Virginis, a beautiful binary system. Twin stars, they're both about magnitude 3.5. Beautiful sight in the telescope. I saw them way back in 1971 with that little 3-inch scope up there, and they're about 4.5 arc seconds apart, which is it's close, but still comfortable for a small telescope. But the two are closing together, and by 2005, you'd need an enormous telescope to be able to split them. We're a fraction of an arc second apart. They've since separated, and they're moving very noticeably. And right now, they're about 2.5 arc seconds apart. This is a sketch by Jeremy Perez, and it's more of an elongated blob here. He made this observation in 2007, just 2 years after that close passage, and they still were hard to resolve. Now you can split them. And this is a beautiful double star, nice twin system, so I'd check that one out next time you get a chance. All right, does anybody have any questions, comments, anything to add to the observing committee report? Okay. Clubhouse report, Steve.
Okay, Clubhouse, Saturday, April 15th, we had a total of 21 volunteers. Thanks to everybody for showing up, it was very helpful. We did some post-winter cleanup. We removed a snow fence, we filled in some potholes in the driveway like we tend to do every year. We had to patch a section along the south side of the observing field adjacent to the porch. The plow lost their way one day during a snowstorm and tore up the lawn. So anyway, we had a bunch of volunteers, spent a few hours regrading and seeding, and right now it looks very good, so it's pretty much back to normal. We also evicted a family of mice from the 17-inch drop.
From where?
I think they were here last year too. They just won't go away.
Where were they sheep?
It's that housing crisis in Boston. Anyway, we cleaned it, cleaned the mirror. Dave Proughton pulled off the mirror cell for us, the one he had built as a matter of fact. We pulled it off, cleaned the mirror, cleaned out the tube, and put some heavy screening mesh on the back side of the mirror cell. So hopefully that'll keep them out. Eric Johansson had upgraded the Shupman wiring. I guess the cables for the laser pointer and the dew heaters were not working well, and they are now. Also repaired the grill, so we're back to cookout season again at the clubhouse. Unfortunately, we had a problem with one of the motors for the clamshell. For our clamshell observatory, we have two motors. One lifts one side, one the other, and either the motor burnt out or the switch burnt out. And it was late at night, so we weren't able to actually troubleshoot it very thoroughly. So this Saturday, with a little help, we're going to try and get to the bottom of that problem and solve it. So, and otherwise, all the telescopes are online and working very well. So come on out to the clubhouse. The next work party is this Saturday, beginning at 10 a.m., and we will be mowing the lawn. So we have 1 month in the fall and one in the spring where we don't have to shovel or mow. So, but that was in the past, and we're now into mowing season. So if anybody can come out and give us a couple of hours, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
All right, some announcements. John Sheff is here. Do we have anything as far as upcoming star parties?
No, nothing coming up, but I want to thank everyone who participated in the Sidewalk Astronomy Party on April 14th. That was the day after our last meeting here. And it was at the Harvard Science Center, and it went very well. So thank you all very much that showed up.
Okay, thanks, John. MIT is going to be having your open house. They had one last fall, and a couple of us showed up to help out by bringing telescopes. It's a little bit more difficult this time because it starts at 6:30. And I don't think darkness even sets until about 8:30, which is probably about the time they'd be closing. I would still bring telescopes just in case there are people who want to stick around. It's the public. They might want to stay and look at some of the telescopes. Also, we're considering bringing maybe some solar telescopes to catch the sun before it goes down. but you're welcome to show up as a guest just to check out the facility, or as a club member to help out bring a telescope. I will put something out on the ATMoB Announce just to kind of catch you up to date on that. Finally, we've worked together. We're going to have a board meeting on May 25th at 7 o'clock in Westford. Again, I'll put something out on that. So this is a time, if you have any concerns, issues, anything you'd like brought up, this is the time to let us know. And again, I'll put something out to alert you on that. Anybody else have an announcement? I know we had a couple.
I mentioned,
Okay, anything else at all? Yes.
I'd like to say something about Citizen Kate, if I could.
Wait a minute, let me see if I've got that. I'll go to the next slide if I'm wrong.
Yep.
Okay, old business and updates. We have Project Kate, Project Panoptis, the Replica Telescope Project, and the Astroscan donation. I know Halden is here tonight. Does anybody have anything to say about Project Kate as far as how she's doing? Sure.
Yeah, so, hi, my name is Bruce Berger. Tom McDonough and I are helping out Ariana with a project. She did post an update. First of all, out of her $3,645 goal, she's raised $2,616 so far. And when you look at the list of donors, there are a lot of ATMoB members there. So thank you all very, very much for that. With permission, I'd like to pass the hat tonight. We usually can come up with
We
a
have a
little bit
second
more.
collection, so we will see if we can work that out. Yeah, there's going to be for the clear dark sky as well, so we'll figure this out.
Okay, dig deep tonight, folks. I'd like to just read a little bit. Ariana went to training with a group of about 20 other people at the University of Illinois. So let me just read this, Southern Illinois University. Last weekend I went to Carbondale, Illinois to the Eclipse Telescope Training Workshop at Citizen Kate. My training group had 20 observers at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. At the same time, there were flash floods, the worst they had seen in decades. Fortunately, we rented an SUV and were able to get through some of the flooded roads and onto campus. Bob Baer led the training and 5 other Kate teams participated. I learned how to assemble the scope, mount motor drives, work the camera, run the image capture, MATLAB analytics software, and build solar filters. We also taught solar dynamics, the solar cycle, solar polarimetry. Bob was part of the team and did that an earlier version of the Kate equipment set up in the last Indonesian equipment. His team shared some of the solar images. I also learned important safety procedures for working with solar observing. The next step is to test out the telescope and software and crescent moon observations with my astronomy team at ATMoB's Observatory in Westford, Mass. The amateur telescope makers of Boston were very supportive of my efforts, giving me valuable advice, and many members have generously donated to my Citizen Kate project, so I'm quite thankful for that. We are more than halfway to our goal to fund the Kate equipment. I'm grateful for the support and encouragement of this science project. I am moved and inspired by the kindness from the entire astronomy community and for all the help given to me. I'm very excited about the upcoming eclipse and being a part of the great citizen science experiment. This is from 12-year-old Ariana. So I would, at some point tonight, like to pass the hat and see if we can raise a few more dollars for Ariana's effort. And as Phil said earlier, and we've been reminded, all of the equipment that she now has, her family fronted the money, all the equipment will go to ATMoB at the end of the experiment. So there's a nice refractor and a mount and a point gray camera and software and a laptop and a whole bunch of equipment. The whole unit becomes ATMoB's property at the end of it. All right.
Thank you. I think what we'll do, I mentioned this thing about the clear dark sky, but I noticed that usually the collection is made at the June meeting. So instead of hitting you twice for things, I think it's a very important project. Now the last time I looked, she was a little over 2/3. I checked her site. That was maybe a week or so ago, so maybe she's creeping closer, but we certainly appreciate your generosity tonight. As far as the clear dark sky, and I don't see where Eileen is right now, she's here. Okay if we do that next month? All right, so we'll do that, and then we'll have everything covered. I was reminded, well, let's do the rest of it. Let me do it now since I've got this. I asked Ed Most to remind me, and he said, "You sure you want me to remind you?" But he's pretty sharp, he's sharper than I am, that I'm almost assuming that our July meeting is locked and sealed and delivered. It isn't. We have to take a vote on it. I've already had Howard here say he's ready to give a talk, and maybe some of you too that might as well. Usually it's about 10, 15, 20 minute talk. I'll just take a vote by hands. How many of you would like to see a July meeting? Just raise your hands. A little higher. I think we got the majority. Okay. All right, we've got a majority of this, so we will have a July meeting.
That'll be our 900th.
What's that?
That'll be the
The 900th.
900th.
Now how many want a July meeting? All right, do a little celebrating. I was thinking I'd put something out that we do something for the 1000th, and some party animals like Mario said, hey, we got to do something for the 900th, so we will. And somebody else, I don't know, it was Dick Coolish mentioned that, well, that'll be the 900th, but the following month is the 900th anniversary of the first, so we should have 2 parties. So we got some party animals. Okay, so we want to have something about Project Panoptes, James? An update?
So just for, I already posted to the group picture of the progress. So basically I've just been doing the physical fabrication of the mounting plates and preparing the enclosure to keep the cameras dry. And now it's on to weatherproofing the mount and building 3 different electronics boards, etc. I'll send more pictures to the group, etc. as progress is made.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. The replica telescope project. Trying to think. Somebody knows this couple. It was Joe and Rhoda Morris, I believe it was. Ken. Jim. Ken, you said has anybody heard anything from them?
Not since last month.
All right, I did give them a call, in fact, and didn't get a hear back. Let me just ask this, because I'll contact them again. Is there any, if those of you that weren't here last time, they're making replica telescopes for this museum in planetarium in China. They're putting together one of, not Kepler, Newton's telescopes, the first reflecting telescope. They're doing Galileo's refracting telescope. And they're going to do one of the Herschel's telescopes, which I think would be an interesting project. If you've ever seen his telescope, lots of wooden slats and pulleys and everything so forth. But I think they're going to reconstruct his 7-foot telescope, which had a 6.5-inch mirror. And I would just ask, first of all, is there anybody in here that would like to take up a project like that? If there is anybody, I'll let them know. Otherwise, we'll kind of let it go.
I think there was somebody at the meeting last month who expressed interest in helping make one of them.
Why don't I put something out there just to see, because I'd certainly like to see that go through. It looks like a very interesting project. Next one, Astros. Because some of you remember that we got an email from a teacher in Turkey who was looking for a telescope donation for the students at his school. And Juan Jimenez, who's in Germany right now, was very kind enough to donate an Astroscan. And we took up a collection to pay, at least for the shipping charge. Then nothing was heard. And I've been getting emails from Juan, what's going on? We're not hearing anything. And there was a concern we might have been scammed. We didn't know. But there was a follow-up. And finally, just within the last week or so, we did get an email finally from Mansur. And I'll read it in part. Here it is. This is again the teacher in Turkey that we donated a telescope to. And he says, Unschlikkel Yeni Control could. I can't read it, obviously, but we do have a member that's from Turkey that understands and has been on top of this. Is Haldun here now? And Haldun's going to give us an update on that. By the way, I do want to tell you this. We try to come here to get away from politics, and even something like this, there are political connotations, and that was the concern. Go ahead, Haldun. Thank you.
It's a long story, but those of you who don't know me, my name is Haldun Menali. I'm originally from Istanbul, Turkey, and Boston has been on for the last 20 years. And very long story, so I'm just trying to be very short, just summarize. I don't really usually check my personal emails every month or so because I'm very busy at my work. And I've been also not around here for some family health crisis. So beginning of May, I was clearing my inbox, and I saw an email from Glenn and sent to Juan as well. And they mentioned about this the telescope donation that Juan sent mail, shipped that Astroscan to Turkey. This teacher, secondary or middle school teacher in the eastern part, what we call usually if somebody from Turkey hears over there, but if you say the Kurdish region or whatever, anything Kurdish, they would be really furious about that, but I'm not one of them, so I admit that there is region over there. So he's from that part of the country, and then after hearing back about what happened and everything, which I wasn't really aware, I checked online, I Googled, and I found a couple of articles which I shared with Glenn and Juan about what they were doing over there. He's a what was it? The teacher.
Oh, he was kind of a guidance counselor.
Guidance counselor, and he was helping mostly the poor kids from needy families about the science and then music and life, because in that part of the country, if you are not really educated well, etc., you either join the military or the other side. So this is why he's very keen about that. So I found, and then I found even his cell phone number, school number, and everything else, because they haven't heard Glenn and Juan from him after the donation. So if you remember also, in 2006, after the solar eclipse in 2006, ATMoB donated some Pyrex blanks and other telescope materials. So I brought them to Turkey during the eclipse, and after the eclipse I helped establish an ATM group in Turkey. This group is still going strong. Last time I checked, I think they had 346 members, and then they are organizing all these ATM workshops around the country, mostly teaching the teachers at schools, elementary schools or middle schools. So I contacted them, I sent them an email, I think it was Saturday night, and Sunday morning I called them because of what's been going on in Turkey for some time. Maybe if you follow international news, the crackdown, the political crackdown, etc., mostly like all these operations and everything, especially like some minority communities. I was kind of scared why we didn't hear from that teacher after reading the articles that he is so criticizing, critical of the government and like helping all these kids, why the government doesn't help, etc. So I think Juan called me the gloom and doom guy because of what I brought up about what might have happened to that teacher. But lo and behold, my friends, they contacted the principal of that school, and then learning that everything is in good order, they called the teacher on his cell phone, mobile phone, and then they spoke with him and asked why you didn't reply. He said, because I wasn't checking my emails. Maybe the internet connection or whatever. So, and I think Monday morning I was at work, and usually I have meetings in the mornings. And when I was out, I saw there was a missed call on my phone from Turkey, from this ATM group that we put together in 2006, and also an email from this actual one forwarded this teacher's email. He replied in Turkish, and what Glenn was trying to read, and he was saying that, sorry, I'm writing in Turkish now, I will reply in English later. I haven't been checking my emails. So we got the scope, but it was the winter break, so I received it later. We haven't done any observations because it's the mountainous region, it's the eastern part of the country. There is like snow on the ground for 6 months. So it's now we are getting into spring, so we will start observing hopefully. They never seen a telescope, they never used a telescope before. So I asked my ATM friends over there to help them. If they can go drive there and then show them how to use the telescope. Even they are preparing the telescope making, mirror making kits, so they can ship them and help them to learn even more and then what to observe. So it was a kind of happy ending finally. And then Juan, he's very creative. He used Google Translator and replied back to that teacher, translated from English into Turkish. So he replied, and then I told Juan that your Turkish is really good. I appreciate that you learned that language in such a short period. From the time that you donated the script to that guy. So it was a happy ending. Thank you very much for the.
Thank you, Harold. And again, Mansur, if you're watching, good luck with the telescope. Enjoy it, and please let us know how it goes. Send us an email, please, in English. And also, I know Juan watches these, so definitely, Juan, thank you for donating that telescope. It's much appreciated. Okay, new business. 90% of the people in this room look like this on our website. We do have a page for members, a member directory, and we have very few pictures, so I'm kind of encouraging you. I was even thinking of taking my camera and taking pictures, but I didn't want to embarrass you. But we may start doing that. Just go around taking sneak pictures of you. Maybe when you're doing something you don't want to have a picture of yourself taken. So please, get a picture of yourself and just send it to the website so we have more of these things here, fewer of those things rather. So we appreciate it very much. And I guess they would go to Chris, right? Or can they put them on themselves?
If you need help with it, just send it to membership@atmob.org and I'll take care of it.
Okay, now, if I understood it right, you can just click on the picture and send your own picture, or is it easy?
Yeah, you can do it yourself, but anybody who needs help can do it. Can ask me.
Okay, so please think about doing that. The nomination committee, we do. I was a little confused.
Go to the next slide.
Oh, okay. James, did you want to maybe?
Sure. So, annual election coming up. So we have there's 5 officers for the club, president, vice president, secretary, membership secretary, and treasurer. And then there's an executive board, which consists of the 5 officers. The last 3 past presidents who are willing to serve, or as many of them are willing to serve, and then members at large to fill it out. And so on that base, we currently have 2 past presidents who are willing to serve, so we need 3 members at large. So the nominating committee had the very hard job of choosing all the existing members who were willing to serve. Fortunately, they all were, so we didn't have to go and bludgeon anybody to become a candidate. So this is the nominations from the nominating committee for this coming year.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. And thanks for the committee. Now, I know sometimes I had a little trouble trying to figure out the bylaws. I didn't think we'd need a nominating committee because we had everybody coming back. I was wrong. I apologize for any confusion last month. There still is an opportunity. If anybody here feels strong about being put on the ballot, you can still do so. And Phil, you might correct me if I'm wrong. I think what you're going to need is 7 signatures. And then it has to be sent to Phil. I would assume you do it by just email.
10 days before the meeting.
10 days before the meeting. Now here's where I'm kind of confused. So who actually announces this? Because it'd be announced at the meeting from the floor, am I correct?
I can email, as soon as I receive any email with indication of the required number of signatures, I can update the board, and I can certainly give an update at the next meeting. However,
Yeah,
it should
okay.
work.
I just like it so we don't have the confusion of all of a sudden we find out there's a person, and when we get here at the meeting next month, we have to get our ballots and paper and pencil. If I knew ahead of time, I could just make out a ballot and you'd all have it right there. Just run something off on a copy machine or something.
That's why
My
it's 10
email
days
address is
before.
on the
Yeah.
ATMoB website.
Okay, that's done. Let's see what else we have going on here. I'm going to back this up because I think there was something else. The Wallace Observatory 16-inch telescope, and this is Bruce was going to make a presentation. Bruce and I were out there yesterday to check it out. What's happening is the Wallace Observatory has a 16-inch telescope that they're willing to just give away. They're upgrading, so they said, ATMoB, you can have it if you want it. And Bruce knows his stuff. I mean, once you get beyond a 6-inch dog or something, I have no idea what's going on. He knows the electronics. So Bruce and I met with Tim Brothers, who's the director there. And Bruce had all sorts of questions. I was very impressed with letting you know. I just kind of looked out the slit of the dome at the clouds and stuff like that and tried to look like I knew what was going on. Bruce is going to make a presentation about the scope because we have to decide if we want this.
Well, it's too late for that. It's being delivered to the clubhouse tonight.
Oh! I thought it was going to your house.
Thanks.
Al, can you turn the lights down a little?
Yeah.
Okay, so, there are 2 domed observatories at Wallace. If anybody, I know a lot of us have been up there before. There's a 24-inch, and there's been a 16-inch telescope up there made by Ealing, which I believe is in Cambridge, and I think at least one of our members, Paul Bolelli, used to work for them. And this is kind of it's a big telescope. It's heavy duty. It's got about a 200-pound equipment capacity, I believe.
I put over 100 tons
Jim was just a young tart, and used
an undergraduate.
An undergraduate, and used it back then. So this is a potential gift from MIT Wallace. They reached out to us first to see if we wanted it, and let's get a look at what it looks like. So it looks bigger when you're there. I used a 14mm lens to get the whole dome in there. That's Tim Brother, the observatory director off to the right, or I'm sorry, observatory technician, whatever, not to belittle. This is one view of it, and there's a few others. Here's another view. This tube from there to there is a little over 5.5 feet. The tube itself probably weighs about close to 200 pounds. It's probably 1/10 of an inch steel. It's steel tube. What's that? And the focuser is on the secondary mirror. However, that's not how the people at Wallace have most recently been using it. They got a pretty sophisticated digital focuser and put it on the back end, on the camera end, and they disabled this one. Another view of the deck axis. You can see at the top, is there a laser thing around here?
Yeah, very top.
Got it. So they're using a C8 as their guide scope over there, and it has a SciTech, I think it's a SciTech controller system on it. Let's see, the C8 and none of the cameras are part of the offer to us. Glenn and I made some measurements to see where it would fit. It's currently in a 16-foot dome. It won't fit in a 10-foot dome. It probably won't, or maybe with if you don't put any people in there, maybe a 12-foot dome. It's going to need a new building to get it, if we get it. And this, or did I skip a slide? No, I guess not. Okay, so there's some specs. It's 16-inch F11. It weighs about 1,000 pounds with the mount. It's got a 200-pound instrument load, the SciTech controller, and they originally paid $12,740 for it.
In 1971.
In 71, so that's at least $14,000 in today's money.
There's a lot of inflation that decade.
Yeah. And then it would take a lot of work actually to get it done. I'm going to start from the bottom up. It needs a new building. All right, we don't have a building that's big enough to house this. Fortunately or unfortunately, about 2 months ago, we were offered a 16-foot ash dome, and we passed up on the offer because we really didn't have the use for that. George East sold his house in Sudbury to some people, and they didn't want the dome there anymore. So, but we passed on that. So we require a new building. Starting back up the top, we repair or replace the RA worm assembly. The gears are worn so that it does not track right in the area that it most likely should. In other words, way over in the fringes it's okay, but the worm gear and the large ring gear are actually worn. The teeth are flat, so we probably need new ones. The secondary focuser would have to be replaced, though. We'd have to have a new digital focuser and a digital back. So we didn't really put any recommendations, but this does not look like something that the club could embrace, I think. Glenn agrees with me, and I know there are several other members that agree with us. But if anybody feels strongly that this is a move we should make, you should bring it to the attention of Glenn and the board. Otherwise, we're probably going to let Wallace know that we're going to let this slip. Is that right, Glenn?
Correct.
Yeah. So, again, if you want contact, it's you can get a hold of me, bruce@scopemaker.com, or email Tim directly, bro@mit.edu. Mario wants it. Mario wants it for a guide scope for the 32. Yes?
I'm just saying you could easily do a roll-off and you don't need a 16-foot dome, but the real problem is the RA worm.
Yeah, you'd probably want to replace it, and I'm not sure how you go about that.
That's the killer. Everything else is easily replaceable.
Yeah. It just, it doesn't track well. I mean, it certainly, it sounded real interesting. I know Tom McDonough was all gung-ho until we really started. I told Tom, you know, Tom, this is really big. It weighs 1,000 pounds, Tom, you know that?
You could think of putting a much bigger telescope on this mount. The mount is quite a relatively sturdy mount relative to what most amateurs see. But as is, it's a lot of work, right? It's just a 16-inch telescope at the end of the day.
You'd be better off probably scrapping the mount and just using the telescope tube, which is in fairly good shape, putting it on the other mount, but you need a mount that's going to carry
Right.
a 200-pound payload. I mean, just the telescope is probably 150 pounds.
Maybe more than that. I mean, it's big old conventional
Tim gave me
test
some specs. It's about 150. He had, when they had the fire, he measured and weighed everything. Yeah. So that's my presentation.
I want to thank Bruce for the time again that he took to put the meeting together and put together this little presentation. I'm going to do a kind of an I think the board will make a decision on this, but I'd certainly like some feedback. How many of you here would think we should pick up this telescope? Raise your hand if you think we should buy into this. I'm not seeing any hands at all. We'll still look, but I think...
Question.
Yes.
Is it really the work or getting money together for it, or what is it that's...
What would you say, Bruce? The money more than the work. We have the people that could do this, don't we? Is Bruce still here? Bruce?
Yeah.
Want to know if it's the money situation is a problem, but do we have the people that could put this together, work the scope? But it's more the money issue, isn't it, than it is having people that can handle it?
Well, you know, we have technical expertise in the club if they're willing to, I mean, I know that we have the engineering expertise to get it going. This is going to be a big time sink, and you need to think about, you need to really start to think about a building. I think if you go back to my slide where it shows the work to be done, just take the building part out of it, you're probably, I mean, a gear, that gear set is probably 5,000, 6,000, maybe even more. And then you've got the controllers 1,000, you've got a focuser and a digital backs, another $1,000. You've got to build a building and put this, I mean, what was it, like a 4-foot square pier that was about this tall, right? All concrete. So there's a lot of work. If somebody wanted to make the commitment, then you'd have to bring it to the board, and the board would have to decide whether it was worthy, and then make a presentation to MIT to go and see if they would allow us to put that, you know, building up or replace an existing one or whatever it would be.
Yeah, Tim did say that wouldn't be a problem.
I don't even think you're looking at maybe something that could be put in service the end of 2018 or something. It's going to be a long-range project, and you'll need enough of a team to commit that amount of time to get the thing online.
All right, thank you for the presentation. Now, Steve, I think I know what you're going to be talking about, but go ahead.
No, just concerning that, I hate to rain on anybody's parade because I love projects like this, new telescope projects, but the last time we did an observatory, we had a very hard time getting permits. Remember, our property is in 2 towns. It's half in Westford and half in Groton. And most of the space is on the Groton side, which is unfortunate. The building people there are really, really sticklers about what we do. So it's not just MIT that has to give us permission, the town of Groton has to give us permission too. And that could be a real showstopper right then and there. If it were a 12-foot dome, we could probably work with that. We'd have to swap something out that we currently have. But the fact that it has to be a 16-foot dome or a roll-off would be extremely hard to do. It could be done, but it would take an immense effort, and we'd have to get permission, and we'd have to get the permits ahead of time.
It's an extreme manpower commitment for the club all around, from everything from pursuing the permitting and permissions there to the actual labor of putting the building up and then doing the mechanical parts of getting this mount together.
Okay, Mark, it looks like you are going to get that find-a-scope after all. Any other announcements?
A very quick one.
Yep.
Hello, everybody. Want to announce that PopScope, the urban public astronomy group that I coordinate, just was awarded $1,000 from, this is a real name, the Awesome Foundation, in support of our Sidewalk Astronomy mission.
Thank you.
It's not too early to mention this. The International Dark Sky Association's annual meeting is going to be in Boston this year. And it's going to be Veterans Day weekend in November. We have a planning committee. Yes, that would be Vice President Pence. I'll call her. We have a planning committee underway. It's probably going to be at one of the downtown hotels. one of the ones that, you know, those that charge you $40 a day to park, those kind of places. But in any case, I'll keep you posted. This is a great opportunity. The last time this happened was 2003, Bruce, 2002. And we're looking forward to having a lot of attention on Boston and the IDA, because there's a lot of members in this area, some of which are here in this room. Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a very brief one myself.
Sure.
As well.
Ken Lonnie.
Hi, I'm Ken Lonnie. Yeah, my wife is curator of Harvard's collection of historic scientific instruments, or historical. They have two things. One is that people have complained, including me, about the fact that they were only open during the time everybody's working. They have been able to get funding so they can now open 6 days. So they're going to be open every Sunday from 11 to 4. And in conjunction with that, and 11 to 4, basically from Sunday through Friday. So that's something that they've been lobbying for years. It took a while to get that to happen. The other thing is there's a fairly new exhibit that opened. I don't know if I mentioned that here or not, on the concept of scale. And it's done in conjunction with a few of the other Harvard museums. And they're examining scale in all the obvious ways, like microscopes, telescopes, and that sort of thing, as well as social scale, rank and things like that, and various anthropological scale, and even scale models and this and that. But one of the things that's at the exhibit, which is new to the collection and it has just been restored, is the optics, the cells and optics for the 24-inch Bruce astrograph, as well as on display are the plate holder, Annie Cannon's notebooks with various things, an annotated plate, 14 by 17-inch glass plates is what that telescope took. And with that telescope, that was how Henrietta Leavitt deduced the period luminosity law, which allowed them to scale the universe and to realize that, in fact, the Milky Way wasn't the only one, because the Cepheid variables that she discovered with the telescope varied. Their pulse rate was a function of how massive they were, and they could see, just using inverse square law, that some of these things appear to be really massive, but they're really faint, so they must be far away. And that allowed them to basically scale the universe. And it's now called Leavitt's law after years of injustice, because she was a woman. But basically, so a lot of things, and in the exhibit are a lot of telescopes that are normally not on display because they're in stores, and some very cool looking ones. So it's free admission, both galleries, upstairs and down. So anybody that wants to can now finally get there without skipping out from work or something. So
Where is it?
Oh, this is, I'm sorry, yeah, the museum is in the Harvard Science Center, and it's on the first floor. If you come in from the Oxford Street side, it's just ahead on the left. And downstairs they have a lot of, the collection has about 25,000 items that have been used at Harvard or as part of teaching and research, and so obviously a small subset of it is on display at any one time, and it's free admission, 11 to 4, and any day but Saturday now. So anyway, it's all
Thank
free.
you, Ken.
Sure.
I think Kelly's response to that cell phone reminded me, there's I guess somebody's cell phone rang out during a mass, and the priest looked down and said, "That had better be God." All right, we've done that. Now our speaker next month is Ellen Lowell Putnam, and I guess he spoke out the Springfield Club, and they gave him a high recommendation. Originally Mario had a director of an observatory in Italy who was supposed to give us a talk. He couldn't make it, so luckily we got another person that's involved. He's a trustee for the Lowell Observatory.
The trustee.
The trustee, the only one. So he's going to be giving us a talk next month, so that's going to be our guest speaker. And of course our guest speaker this month is Kelly. Now what I'm going to do, we're going to bring up the lights and do the collection while Kelly's getting set up, but I did want to clear up something. Apparently there was a mistake in the newsletter. I'll take the hit on this. I had sent Al the write-up for the previous. Originally, Kelly was going to talk about the Pluto mission, the follow-up. I think Kelly and I agreed, you know what, the topic he's going to do, which is about the Chile, the Sky and Telescope trip to Chile, would be more entertaining for the club. We all know pretty much what happened with Pluto, with Kelly's 3 articles in Sky and Telescope. It would pretty much be a repeat. So he's going to talk about that. But anyway, I did send out Al a correction in the President's newsletter, but it didn't get in. So we're not going to blame, I'll take the hit. But I'll even blame the Russian hackers again. They had something to do with this goof up. So while Kelly's getting set up, you all know him. I don't have to make an introduction. Kelly, of course, is senior editor in Sky and Telescope. More importantly, he's a member of this club and a good friend to all of us. And in a few minutes here, he'll give his talk. And as we've done in the past, we'll entertain about 3 questions from the audience. And then Al Takaitis take care of the refreshments. We can break for refreshments. And those of you who still have questions and want to meet with Kelly can come up the front. Again, thank you. We'll close the meeting formally after the 3rd question. So we'll get the lights on. Kelly's going to get set up, and we want to pass the hat again for this collection for Ariane and Project Kate. So
time.
Oh yeah. What do you think? About 5 minutes or so?
Take a hat.
All right. Yeah. A quick trip. Then you're helping out a 12-year-old girl. And you know, I think I mentioned this in an email. There was somebody was concerned that she's going to get clouded out, waste all this time. You know what? She's 12 years old. We've got an eclipse that's going to last 4 minutes long, coming right through this area in 7 years. She'll be a college student by then. And whatever she missed or made mistakes doing this time, she'll get it definitely right the next time. She's got a lot of chances for future eclipse. So.
Can we write a check?
Yeah, sure. Write a check to, what's his name?
Yeah.
Harrison Roberts. Harry Roberts.
I'm not here next month, so please forget it.
Buffalo, I was just looking. Buffalo is right in the center.
Bruce is taking care of the money. You go to her go. Where are we putting the money? Oh, give it to Bruce. It's coming around the house. Oh, all right. Well. Yeah.
Oh, here. Thank you. Thank you for your business, Jonathan. All right, Joe. We'll take it. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Great. We're not quite up to the. Anybody else over here? Super. Look at that. 50. Bruce. $100 from Dr. Fred. All right.
Only 10, Fred? Come on.
Anybody else? Right here. Anybody else? Oh, thank you. We do take checks. Just let me know and I'll tell you who to make it out to.
Behind you, Bruce.
Bruce?
Yes.
Bruce? So while he's finishing up, I'll tell you a funny story. Or at least it's funny to me. The first time I actually took a group of people to the southern hemisphere was in 2002. There was an eclipse of the sun that crossed Africa. And I had very little experience with the southern sky. So I wanted to make sure that I had some practical knowledge of the stars before I went down there. And at the time I was doing some script writing for the Hayden Planetarium here. And some of you know or remember Noreen Grice. And I called Noreen and I said, is there a chance I could get a little time in the dome, you know, with this, and you could dial up the southern sky? She said, sure, come Friday at 3 o'clock. So I did that. And I'm sitting there and I had some knowledge and I'm looking around and I said, Noreen, there's supposed to be a first magnitude star right there, Achernar, and it's not there. She said, you got me. Now you know the old projector that they had there, you know. So what would happen is that there are bulbs for individual bulbs for the bright stars, And when one would burn out in the northern hemisphere, they didn't always have spares, so that they would take one thinking no one would ever know. I caught him. So anyway, that was then and this is now. I think we're ready. Thanks very much. So I have been back to the southern hemisphere a number of times since then, and most recently, just 6 weeks ago, for the Sky Telescope. The last time we had a tour of this in Chile was 3 years ago. Bob Noya led that tour, and I got the nod this time. And as before, we went to Chile, and it's sort of a 24/7 experience. I think many of you know that Chile is a land that has many professional observatories. But what you might not know is that they have a kind of growing, blossoming tourism, astronomical tourism community, where people like you, you get 4 or 5 telescopes and you get a nice dark site outside of a town, and you basically have a bus. You bring tourists out, you charge them 20 or 25 bucks. You give them, a lot of the times they have no knowledge of the sky whatsoever, so you give them a little brief, here's what a constellation is, and then you do a little green laser thing, and then you show them, the amazing southern sky through telescopes, and some of them are pretty substantial, 16, 20 inches. And so that we'll see some of that. So I had a group of 25 people, and we started off in Santiago. So you'll see over here, this long skinny country is Chile. And then Santiago is in the middle of the country, but it's not on the coast. A lot of people think Santiago is on the coast. It's not. It's in an interior valley. It's a pretty big town. And this is a Google map. And the National Observatory of Chile is in Santiago. And it's not used for actual research anymore. The backstory there is that any time a professional observatory is built in Chile, the Chilean astronomical community gets 10% of the observing time on that scope, no matter what it is. It could be an 8-meter scope, it could be like the very large telescope. They all get 10% of the time. And so as it turns out, quirkily, a lot of American or Western, Northern Hemisphere astronomers go to the University of Chile for their graduate degrees because they got all this telescope time that they don't know what to do with. And I thought that was interesting. So anyway, the observatory is located on this hill, and that was our first stop because I wanted to kind of get a grounding for the history of Chile, history of astronomy in Chile, and how all this influx of astronomers has affected them. So this was when that observatory was built in the 1950s. You can tell by the old cars here. It's on this mountain overlooking the city. They had a series of domes. So when we were there, this was one of the original domes that they built. It is in complete disrepair, and the reason is it was originally supposed to house a 24-inch telescope. Some of the telescopes had been transported to this location, it's called Cerro Calan, from other parts of the country. And by the time they built this dome, they had some delays getting the telescope. The telescope was never installed in the dome. So they built the dome, it's completely empty, there's just a pier there, and that's it. And it's all derelict on the inside, it's all beat up. But there are some telescopes. There's a 12-inch refractor that we got a chance to look at. And Al Slisky, I took this picture just for you, so that you can see the working end. I have no idea what these switches do, but it is electrified. It was a beautiful old telescope. They had another slightly larger double refractor, and this is the same style of telescope, as I understand it, that was used to create the Cartesio. Cartesio, a double refractor. So these are both used sometimes for outreach, but this is the one that they use most now for outreach. It's an 18-inch cast made by the circumstances of how they got a grant from the Japanese government to buy a Japanese telescope and install it in Chile. It's all a little vague to me. But in any case, we had the benefit of one of the astronomers there, and we got to have dinner overlooking the city of Santiago as the sun sets. So we had nice hors d'oeuvres, free drinks and stuff like that. This is the commanding view from there. The sun has set, and this is after it got a little bit darker. Very pretty. A lot of light pollution. Hard to see much of anything at all. So we did a little tour in Santiago. It's kind of a medium-sized city. They have a big fish market, despite the fact that they're not on the coast. A lot of air pollution I noticed while we were there. This is actually, we've left the city now. We're flying northward to La Serena, and this is a kind of pall of light pollution. So we headed a little bit north to the north central coast, and this is La Serena, which is the big town in that area. And you can see some of these are Sartolo is a professional observatory, Kalawara is an amateur observatory, Mamayuca is an amateur, La Silla, Las Campanas, those are both professionals. This is a real hub of astronomical concentration. So this is the European Southern Observatory site on La Silla, not to be confused with the one on Paranal, which is where the VLT, the quartet of 8-meter scopes. For those of you who don't follow this, the European Southern Observatory is the 600-pound gorilla of professional astronomy. They are the biggest astronomical organization in the world. Their headquarters are in Germany, but they have a massive presence in Chile and elsewhere, and it's really a big-time operation. So this is the summit on La Silla, and this is our group. We're posing with the biggest scope that's up there right now is a 3.6-meter telescope, one of the old guard, as it were. But its claim to fame is that it gets really good image quality, and it has been doing that for quite some time. You can see it's a pretty traditional equatorial mount there. Our group consisted of a few hardcore observers and some people who just like the adventure of going to someplace new. We had a lot of fun. On the same site is the New Technology Telescope, which really isn't that new a telescope. It's got this really compact enclosure with the vents and such. Inside it's very tight. It's got you can see it here behind us. It's got two nascent foci on either side where they have instruments. And this was one of the first scopes to have adaptive optics, so it was pioneering in that sense. One of the other scopes, we didn't visit them all, we only got a chance to visit a couple. One of the scopes we just drove by was the TRAPPIST dome. Now TRAPPIST is for a Belgian consortium that uses this telescope. It's kind of a play on words. TRAPPIST is an acronym standing for Transiting Planet and Planetesimal Small Telescope. A little convoluted. But this was the telescope that led to the discovery of what you heard in the news not that long ago, the 7-planet system with at least 3 or 4 of them are Earth-sized planets in the habitable zone of its parent star, which is an M star, a dwarf. And it's our solar system to scale, our inner solar system anyway. You know, a lot of what astronomers are finding, just as an aside, is that M dwarfs, which are the most common type of star, also tend to be the kind of star, because their disks are smaller when they form, that form lots and lots of Earth-sized planets. More so than even solar-type stars, which tends to form more, Jupiters and hot Jupiters. So this is the hot new territory for exploration. And of course, there's plenty of M stars. Well, anyway, we were up in the La Serena area, and the road inland through what's called the Elqui Valley is called the Ruta de las Estrellas, which is the route of the stars, road of the stars. And the signposts all have like all the observatories and so forth. And astronomy is big time in this part of Chile. We happen to be there in Semana de las Estrellas, which is a National Astronomy Week, as it turns out. And this causes some complication because we wanted to get all these tours of observatories, and all the astronomers were off doing outreach things. So we had some challenges. We were about to head off to an evening observing session, and word came to our hotel that we had been summoned to the city hall in Vicuña, which is one of the main little towns there, because the mayor of Vicuña wanted an audience with us. And so we trooped our whole group over there in this big conference room, and there was, you know, wine was served and stuff. There was a photographer, and he gave us, you know, bottles of wine and little plaques and stuff. The paint is already coming off of that.
Is that when they make vicuña coats?
I'm sorry?
Is that what they make vicuña coats?
Yes, a vicuña is a kind of animal. I will show you a picture, Fred, a little bit later. And so he's not dumb, because he knows that in 2019 there's going to be a total solar eclipse of the sun, and his town is in the path. And he's already banging the drum, so to speak. And he heard Sky and Telescope, and that was all he needed to know. And so there we are. Anyway.
Does he have the authority to sign a contract?
Yeah, he'll put you up in his home personally. Now, I mentioned these tourist observatories. This is one of the oldest and most well-known, Mauna Kea. I had actually been to this place before on a prior trip in 2003. These are really nice people, right? It's a business model. They run it as a business, but they're amateur astronomers just like you, and they love showing people the sky, and they have a pretty good facility here. You can see a couple of domes. There's I think 14-inch telescope in the dome. This is one of those outdoor things. So here's the building behind us, and there's a bunch of people with a dot in the foreground. And you know, I was taking the picture and I said hold still, and then I painted them with my red flashlight, and that's what I got. This is inside doing the observing with one of the big scopes that they've got. They tend to be very knowledgeable amateur astronomers. So you know, they have the standard list of things. The Jewel Box and Omega Centauri and the Carina Nebula. But if you press them, they can show you all kinds of neat things that are lesser known objects. Well, this was the sky that we had to work with. This was for a little bit after sunset, and the projector isn't doing a very good job. It's blown out a lot. But like the Southern Cross is here. Here's Alpha and Beta Centauri down here. This is all Carina. Here's Crux, the Southern Cross, and right here is something that's called the False Cross. Two stars in each of Vela and Carina that mimic the Southern Cross. Canopus is a very bright star. From some places in the continental U.S. it's visible. Here's Orion, here's Canis Major, and then Canopus can sometimes be seen above the horizon. Canopus is actually a star that has been used on many interplanetary missions as a tracking star. And here's Achernar, the one that was missing in the planetarium show. Okay, so I am not an astrophotographer, don't pretend to be one, but I took my camera, and in fact I took one of the Ioptron sky trackers and never had a chance to actually use it. So this is just on a tripod to set the stage here. Here's Crux up here on its side, here's the top, here's the bottom. This is the coal sack. Alpha and Beta Centauri. This is Omega Centauri over here, the giant globular cluster. It's a little bit of a noisy picture, but I thought I could show that I know how to focus. So outside of Vicuña, there is a road that leads to not one, but now 3 observatories. Cerro Tololo has been established there for quite some time. We'll see some pictures in a second. Cerro Pachon is where Gemini Observatory is here. This is the SOAR telescope. And over here, just off the picture, is the construction site for the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope. I'll show you a picture of that in a second. So we actually went to 2 observatories in one day. This is Cerro Tololo. This is sort of that and Las Campanas are the 2 sort of granddaddies of that area. Their largest telescope is this one. It's a 4-meter. This is a clone of the 4-meter telescope on the top of Kitt Peak in Arizona. It's called the Victor Blanco telescope because Victor Blanco was good friends with the University of Arizona, and he basically arranged to have this built. In fact, I learned an interesting fact today. The construction of this telescope was announced 50 years ago by none other than Lyndon Johnson, who was visiting Chile at the time, and it was a joint announcement of the 2 presidents. So that's cool. There's our group. There's my lovely wife, Cheryl.
Wasn't Cerro Tololo the one that was built by the Air Force Labs? I believe that was.
I don't know. I mean, this particular telescope was not. This was as I said, a clone of the one on Kitt Peak, that's the male telescope. I'm not really sure, Fred. Maybe it might have been this one. This is actually I think the oldest professional telescope of this size in Chile. It's a 60-inch telescope that was installed in 1967. This is his 50th anniversary of being there, so it's actually been there for a long time. Really nice scope. We got great tours. I'd like to introduce you to our little traveling buddy Mel. Mel is a beanie baby, a koala. Cheryl and I take Mel wherever we go, and we only take pictures of Mel. We really don't take pictures of each other. He's in his tropical garb. He has many different outfits. He's checking out one of the telescopes there. So we moved on to Gemini telescope. This has an 8.2 meter mirror, one of the giant mirrors. Here's our group in front of the telescope. Then we went underneath. This is the cleaning tank. This is the vacuum tank. I checked this thing, for those of you who are gearheads, weighs 70 tons. It's 70 tons of rolled steel that they use to do the vacuum coating. Really immense instrument. It's hard to... And then right next door they were building, under construction, this is the LSST, which will also have an 8-meter mirror when it's completed. This will be covering huge swaths of the southern sky every night, looking for asteroids and other things. Well, that's what we did during the daytime, right? We visited professional observatories, and then at night, because we had so much energy left over, we'd go and do like observing at these private observatories. And here's one of them. This is Observatory Del Pangue, which is a really nice place, great friendly people. They also now have a solar observatory, which we didn't get a chance to see. And we had to eat. And so this is a picture of one of the most common Chilean dishes. It's called chariana. And it is a bed of French fries on which is topped with grilled meat, onions, and peppers, and then topped with an egg, often just a sunny side up egg. And you find this all over the place. And that's actually about life size, the plate that came with all this. Now, I have to confess, Mel has a drinking problem. And Mel does, not his own, it's Mel. And one of the things in Vicuña, that area, this is the pisco capital of the world. Pisco is a distilled hard liquor from grapes. It's a grape distilled liquor, and think tequila. And they make a very common drink in South America called pisco sours. This is like, inebriation instant. I mean, it's really strong stuff. And it turns out that one of the major producer of pisco is right there in Vicuña. Isn't that convenient? So we had to have a group picture there too. This was the most popular stop on the whole tour. From there we moved north into northern Chile, and we flew into this little town, Calama, and from there took a short bus ride to San Pedro de Atacama. And you've all heard Atacama, the bleak desert where nothing grows and there's never any rain. It's completely true. This is a picture of mud cracks as far as the eye can see. This is the Andes, and there are a lot of active volcanoes in the Andes, stratiform volcanoes, very pretty. We had great weather. Guess what? It didn't rain a day while we were there in Chile, so we had great weather the whole time. And this is beautiful downtown San Pedro. Not much to it. It is a very touristy place, and yet, in this small town with just a few thousand people, there are so many places where you can get astronomical tours. When I was at the corner taking this picture, literally within 20 feet, there were 4 places, 4 little, stalls like this that offered astronomical tours. And a lot of old telescopes, some missing mirrors, just sitting out on the sidewalk trying to draw you in. But this one is not a fly-by-night operation. This was outside. It's called San Pedro de Atacama Celestial Explorations, or SPACE for short. This is owned and run by an ex-professional observer by the name of Alain Maury. He's a French immigrant, and he and his wife have been there for quite some time. He both does tours. He's got a lodge. You can overnight. You can rent a telescope for the night. He does scientific research there, and this is just a handful of the 11 telescopes he had out for us to do observing. And you can see there are some pretty substantial daubs there. So we got great views of stuff. This was a shot I took of just people looking up at the night sky, and of course everything was fantastic. Now I did get a little time on my own. The last night we were there, I snuck off to one of these other places. It was called Una noche con las estrellas, a night with the stars. Again, they had several telescopes. It's a husband-wife team. We had a small group. They divided them into English speakers and Spanish speakers, and I was kind of by myself. So you can see I was really dressed nattily here. I had my baggy cargo pants on because I thought, well, who's going to see me in the dark? And then they took this picture. Anyway, this is one of the few pictures I took. I actually did a time sequence. It's a little bit wider angle. Southern Cross is right in here. Here's the Coalsack, Alpha and Beta, Omega Centauri. This is the whole Carina Nebula. Large Magellanic Cloud, small Magellanic Cloud. And I took I only had 2 hours, right? So I was taking a picture every 25 seconds to make a movie, right? Well, I did that, and at 24 frames per second, the movie lasts 6 seconds. So I need to go back and spend the whole night there. One of the main reasons for being in San Pedro was to go to see some part of ALMA, the Atacama large millimeter and submillimeter array. And this is where it's located. It's at an altitude of 5,000 meters. 5,000 meters. More than 17,000 feet on this Chajnantor plateau. This is a place where humans don't last very long. And you just can't go. I tried to get us up there, but you can't go up there without supplemental oxygen. And they actually limit the time that the workers are up there to like a couple of hours.
I skied 18,000 feet near.
You have skied near there?
On the Bolivian side.
These aren't your tracks? So we couldn't go there, but we could go to the operations support facility, which is merely at 9,000 feet. And it's quite a complex. The interesting thing is this picture was taken a long time ago. ALMA consists of 66 dishes of 12 and 7 meters in diameter. And they're it's done. It's operational now. So here at the processing place, it doesn't look like this. All these dishes are up on top, and we were actually very lucky. They had 2 of these large dishes there while we were there, and had we gone 2 weeks later, they'd have been shipped back up to the summit, and there wouldn't have been any. So this is what they look like. Here's our happy group. Turns out that these dishes have been provided by the United States, Europe, and Japan. And each 12-meter dish has its own design because each of those countries or consortia had planned to have their own millimeter, submillimeter array. And then that's all that came about because the 3 of them decided to pool their resources into one big array, but each country kept its own design that it had on the books by then. These are big, beautiful dishes. And unlike most radio dishes, the surfaces are very accurate because of the relatively short wavelengths that are used. This is one of the crawler transporters that they use to haul these things up and down from the plateau. You can see they're very beefy machines. And Al, I took this picture for you so you can see all the plumbing that's involved here. Just the hydraulics are were astounding to me. As it turns out, we went to the control room and we lucked out because the astronomer, because it works during the daytime, right? It's a radio telescope, so they're running all the time. This is Richard Cook from the NRAO in West Virginia. He happened to be on duty, and he gave us a terrific impromptu talk about all the research that they're doing, and we were very, very lucky to see that. Well, it turns out that not far from the Alma processing facility is the Tropic of Capricorn. And this is the marker. It's pretty rudimentary. It's just a simple cross. But the reason it's shaped like this is that this is, on the one hand, it marks the Tropic of Capricorn, which is the point, the southernmost point where the sun can be directly overhead. But it's also the crossing point with an ancient Inca road that leads into Bolivia from here. So it was fun. We all took our pictures there. The next day we went up, our highest point was when we went to the Tatio geysers, one of the most active geyser fields, geothermal fields in the world. It happens to be at an altitude of 14,200 feet. And so we were a little bit worried, but yeah, apparently the thing to do is to go up there at sunrise. So you can see the sun coming up over all these steaming plumes. And we did that, and so it was late summer, but at 14,000 feet, it's still cold. It was below freezing. And yet, there's a thermally heated pool. You can see these folks have their coats on, these folks do not. I did bring my swimsuit. I was prepared to go in, but the guy didn't give me enough time. So I had a convenient excuse. As you can imagine, we went during dark of the moon. This was a very old moon, about 2 days before new, hanging in the sky just before we left on our last morning, kind of picturesque and poignant. And we did see a lot of wildlife. And so, Fred, these are vicuñas.
Well, you're old enough to remember. There was a big fuss back in the 50s, a political thing. I don't remember what it was about.
Sherman Adams.
Sherman Adams was that.
Fred, many of us were not alive in the 50s.
I know, but Mario was delivering babies then.
Anyway, this was out in the middle of all this desolation. There are these occasional oases, and in fact, the Chilean National Flamingo Preserve is not far from here. It's in the middle of nowhere, and they, I don't know what they do. They truck in the water or something. There's a natural spring. Anyway, there were these little oases of life. These are called the vizcachas, right? And they're related to chinchillas. And we saw a couple of them along the road. They were so cute. And I was taking a picture of these alpacas, and one of them photobombed my shot. Anyway, so we ended up going to see 4 professional observatories and 4 amateur observatories. We had, it was basically 24/7 astronomy during the week we were there. On our last day, we flew back down from Calama to Santiago, and we arrived about noon, and all of our flights leading back to the States or wherever didn't take off until like 7 or 8 o'clock. So we had like 6 hours, 7 hours to kill, and I was darned if we were going to spend that time in the Santiago airport. So we hopped on our bus and we went outside. Some of you might know that Chile is a very nice wine-growing country, and we didn't have to go very far before we found this lovely vineyard. It's an organic vineyard, and they really did a nice job for us. Here's our group checking out the local wares. We had like this whole wine tasting thing all ready for us. It was great, great, great. We had such a great time. Okay, to conclude, one of the things I did when I was down there is did a little recon for July 2nd, 2019. Because there's going to be, the total eclipse that's coming up will be the last one until this one in 2019, and it goes right over La Serena and the whole Pisco Valley, Vicuña. It goes over some of those observatories I showed you, and it's going to be quite a party. And they're just now getting interested and getting they know that it's coming. The problem is, and I was talking to Mario about this at dinner, the infrastructure, La Serena is a pretty good sized town, but climatologically they get a lot of low marine clouds, and it happens late in the afternoon here. So it will be low down and over the ocean. And so the best spots will be inland along this road. You can see the center line here. The problem is, Vicuña is the only big town. There's another little one called El Molle, and then as you get farther along here, there's nothing much here. There's no infrastructure. It's going to be a very challenging thing for all, you know, you imagine all the millions of people who are going to see totality in 3 months, right? And for those of you who've been to total eclipses before, you know that the 4 words that come out of people's mouths after they've seen totality, when's the next one, right? And so I'm a little bit worried. We're starting to plan, the Sky Telescope is definitely going to have something going. But if you want to go down on your own, as I said, I can fix you up. I can hook you up with a friend I met down there, and he'll make sure that you get the very best accommodations. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Where's the magic person? Get this
Here we go.
and we want high, I believe.
You have to pound it.
Before we have questions, I think if Bruce Berger here, you have an announcement to make about the collection we took?
Oh, yeah. Thank you all very much on behalf of Ariana and Harrison Roberts. Citizens Kate, we collected $329. Thank you very, very much. Shy of $3,000 if anybody wants to kind of round it off.
Yeah, I think Bruce said before this collection she needed $1,000. She's got a third of that.
She's
This
at
was my selection.
$26.15 out of $36.45. That's before this. So she's almost to $3,000.
Okay. As I said before, we're going to entertain 3 questions, and then we're going to I'll close the meeting formally. Anybody who has further questions, wants to talk to Kelly, come up. Allocators take care of the freshmen, so after 3 questions, then we'll go back to the freshmen. We've got a question back there.
Question number 1.
So the question is, it's on your trip, there were the amateur observatories that were available to you seem quite wonderful, and with some accommodations at some of them. And how come they can do such a good job of that, and there are no longer situations like that in the United States? Most of the ones out of New Mexico and Arizona, for instance, have closed. And, you know, I don't know if we didn't give them enough business.
Right, because there used to be some like outside of Tucson.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is that first of all, they don't have they have a lot of tourists going through San Pedro, for example, and La Serena, for example. But San Pedro, people are going up to those geysers all the time, and so they're in a kind of, what can we do now? What can we do today? And it's something new and different. And also the southern skies, you know, they're a big draw. I showed you the map for right after sunset, but as the evening wore on, I mean, can you imagine being able to see Sagittarius and Scorpius with an altitude of about 70 degrees up? You know, it's amazing. Orion is like straight overhead basically at sunset. So there's that, and also there's a sort of entrepreneurial thing to this, right? These are not like Start Hill Inn and places that have had, you know, that was a whole B&B kind of setup. This is a little bit more fast and loose. You get 3 or 4 telescopes and a couple of people to run them and a couple of green laser pointers, and you can make $300 a night, and then everyone goes home. You know, it's like being aunts and uncles, right? You can send the kids home when they're done. So I think that's part of it too. That said, I see this as a model for some places in the United States. You know, they're in high tourism areas. Also, the problem is they have to be high tourism and not have any light pollution. That's the problem. And even some of these places, we did have some issues with light domes in some of the surrounding towns.
So it's not going to work out in the US.
Well,
Because of liability, no.
Liability, because you might trip on a vicuña in the middle of the night.
You have too many lawyers.
Yeah, too many. Send money, guns, and lawyers, isn't that the name?
Chile, it's a little bit.
I'll make a statement about the ATM trip. Rather than physical questions. Yeah, for those who...
Well, wait a minute. He said, if there are no questions. There's your opening. Quick!
Oh, Kelly, were there other observatory sites you wish you had gone to and seen that you didn't have a chance to go to?
Yeah, it's a great question. On my previous trip, we got a chance to go to the VLT. I should say, our tour of ALMA is not something... So, most of these places allow people to come and visit, but we had a specific schedule, so we had to be there on a certain day. So like our tour of ALMA was approved by the director of ALMA, right? Our tour of La Silla we had to like pay to bring the guides up. The place that I went before, that we didn't get a chance to see this time, was the VLT, the Very Large Telescope on Cerro Paranal, where they have 4 8-meter telescopes all aligned. And we had just gone up there, this was in 2003, we had gone there just expecting to see it for an hour and then leave. Well, Sky and Telescope, I mean, not to brag, but it kind of opens doors. and so what we found when we got to Cerro Paranal, we got to stay until twilight. They opened up the domes, you know, as they normally would. We got to see them like get everything ready for a night's observing. It was quite an exciting trip. So that was the one I wish we could have seen. We just didn't have any time. But the flip side is, I hadn't gone to La Silla before, and that was really nice to be there too. One more.
Mario?
Anybody up there? Mario, it's all yours.
For those who are wondering whatever happened to the eclipse trip for the ATMs, the problem is the Chileans don't understand the concept of contract. And I kid you not. Bernie and I have been, Bernie's been taking the lead on this, have been arguing with them for about a year now. We've got semi-contracts at about 4 different hotels. I'm not staying in Serena. I'm not going 8,000 miles to sit in fog every night. So it's one of those ones up in the Elqui Valley. None of them want to sign a contract. So there may or may not be a trip down there for the eclipse.
Yeah, not to be confused with the American hotels that signed contracts and then withdrew them and quadrupled the amount of money. Yeah, we're much better at contractual stuff than that. Anyway, thank you all very much for inviting us. Good to be here as always.
The meeting is officially over. We thank you for coming. Have a safe trip back, and we'll see you next month. Now, take care of refreshments. This meeting is closed.